Most people think their limits come from outside circumstances. They point to the economy, their boss, their childhood, their lack of resources, and they say, that's why I can't go further. But let me tell you something that may sting a little. It's not the world that's holding you back. It's not your past, and it's not even your failures. The thing holding you back is the story you've been telling yourself about what's possible for you. That story becomes your prison. And to think about it, every human being is born with the same raw potential. You weren't born thinking, I can do this. I'll never be good at that. That was taught to you. It was conditioned into you through experiences, through voices of authority, through your environment. And maybe someone told you you're not smart enough, or that's not for people like us, or be realistic, and you accepted it. And once you accepted it, you built a cage around yourself, a cage of invisible rules, a cage of self-imposed ceilings. The tragedy is that most people never test those walls. They assume the limits are real. They assume that ceiling is permanent. And so they live inside the small box when in reality, the walls were made of paper all along. But the moment you question them, the moment you challenge them, you realize you can push right through. Psychologists call these limiting beliefs. Philosophers call them illusions of the mind. I call them lies because that's what they are. Lies you've repeated so many times, you started believing them. And the more you believe them, the more you act in alignment with them. If you believe you're not capable of being a leader, you'll hesitate every time leadership is required. If you believe you don't have the talent, you won't even try. It's not that you couldn't do it. It's that your belief system made sure you wouldn't even attempt it. Let me give you an example. There's this famous story of a circus elephant. When the elephant is a baby, trainers tie it to a small wooden stake. The baby elephant pulls and pulls, but it's not strong enough to break free. Eventually, it gives up. Later, when the elephant is fully grown, weighing several tons, powerful enough to pull down a tree, they tie it to the same tiny stake, and it stays. Not because it can't break free, but because it doesn't believe it can. That's most people. You're walking around with the strength to pull down trees, yet you're living as if you're tied to a wooden stake that you could snap in seconds. And here's the breakthrough, the limits aren't real. They exist only in your mind. The way you destroy them is by destroying the story that keeps them alive. You've got to interrupt that pattern and ask, what if this isn't true? What if I've been living inside an illusion? The moment you ask that question, you create space. You give yourself permission to see a different possibility. Now, I'm not saying this is about blind optimism. This isn't about standing in front of a mirror and chanting, I'm amazing, while doing nothing. That's not growth. That's delusion. What I'm talking about is challenging the assumption that your limits are fixed. They're not. The human mind, the human spirit is adaptable. When you take one step further than you thought you could, when you push past that edge, you literally rewire what your brain believes is possible. Progress in one area creates belief in another. You expand the walls of the cage until you realize there never were walls at all. And that's where real freedom begins. Because once you see the lie, once you recognize that the chain around your ankle isn't even locked, you start living differently. You stop waiting for permission and you stop asking, can I, and start declaring, I must. That's when life opens up. So let me ask you this, what's the stake you've been tied to? What's the story you've been repeating that keeps you from moving forward? You've got to name it. Because when you name the lie, you take its power away. Once you see it clearly, you can rip it out by the roots and replace it with a new truth. And that new truth becomes the foundation for a new life. Here's what I want you to remember. The only real limits are the ones you accept. If you change the story, you change your identity. And when you change your identity, you change your destiny. So don't settle for the prison of old beliefs. Break the illusion. Tear down the walls. Because the power to live unlimited has always been inside you, waiting for you to claim it.